Ladies and gentlemen, please notice that exits are conveniently located at the front and rear of this auditorium. When leaving the theater, we suggest that the exit at the front of the auditorium will allow you easier access to the parking areas. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Mike Field.
Hello, I'm Mike Butler.
And welcome to Forgotten Cinema Lead Up. Each episode, we highlight a film from a popular series and follow it all the way to the most recent release. We'll discuss what we love about the movie or perhaps don't love about it, but we'll always recommend you revisit it, even the not so good ones. Let's get into it. So this is a lead up, but we're only doing one movie.
True lead up?
Exactly. It's kind of like a reference lead up, but whatever. Mike, how are you?
I'm doing all right. You know, I really want to get this new horror film I have like in my head. I want to film it, but it's based on Dracula. And I couldn't get the rights to Dracula, but it's okay because I just rewrote it as Count Orlock, and it's going to be the same movie, but different names basically. I really like authenticity. So unbeknownst to the cast and crew, I've hired a real vampire to play my Nosferatu. But he has the hots for the main actress. So, sacrifices need to be made for true art.
Mike's talking about the 2000 Shadow of the Vampire, a kind of behind the scenes, kind of like a historical fiction kind of, I would think you could call this historical fiction about the making of Nosferatu. What's the full title of Nosferatu again? It's Nosferatu... Symphony of Blood or something like that.
Symphony of Horror.
No, Symphony of Horror. That's what it is.
Yep.
Okay. So because Mike and I are going to be doing a Forgotten Cinema now showing of Robert Eggers' new movie Nosferatu, which comes out on Christmas. We're probably going to try to get it to it at some point between Christmas and New Year's. It's a busy time of year, so give us some time. But we're going to get there. I'm pretty scared about that. I'm going to openly admit, and I've admitted this already. Throughout the last couple of weeks that I've been openly afraid of what's going to happen. So we'll see.
You keep saying that. And I can't tell if you're joking or not anymore.
A little bit. I'm just like, I watched the trailer. I'm just like, oh man, this is going to, you know what it is? It's not so much the scare. It's how loud it is in the IMAX. No, not even that. It's just how loud it is in the IMAX. Like, I don't mind jump scares, but when you add the audio to it, I feel like that's like attacking my senses. I'm just like, listen, I can take the jump scare, but like when it's like, ah, and you're like, all right. And it's like someone screaming in your ear every 10 minutes. So I'm a little worried about that portion, but I'll be fine. We'll deal with it. I'll pretend like I'm watching it. I'll fall asleep. I'll be like, what happened there, Mike? All right. So we're going to talk about Shadow of the Vampire. So we kind of do it like our main episode. We do the facts, and then we kind of do the way we do it in the main show. So here we go. Shadow of the Vampire has a runtime of 92 minutes. Rated R, production budget of $8 million. Now it has two release dates. Its limited release date was the 29th of December of 2000, and that's obviously so that it could be eligible for the award season, which it did get some nominations. And in that limited run, which was maybe like 2 or 3 theaters, it made $150,000. Then it was expanded to about 500 theaters, and that's the height of its run. On Friday, January 26, 2001. So we're going to go on those numbers in terms of what movies came out around then and how it did that weekend. So that expanded date, its opening weekend, it did 1.8 million. Domestic total was 8.2 million. International total was 2.9 million for a worldwide total of $11.1 million. Production company was BBC Films and Saturn Films. And for those who don't know, Saturn Films is actually Nicolas Cage's production company, along with Jeff Levine, which we'll get into later. Distributed by Lionsgate Film in the United States. Did you notice the old Lionsgate Films logo, Butler, when you watch this movie? I
did. I was like, Is this that old? And I was like, no, 2000. Yeah. Why is that such an old logo?
Yeah. Well, this movie is over 20 years old. I mean, now.
It kind of looks it too. It wasn't the best. I think that's as good as you can get it, but
that's on purpose though. Well, and I'll get into that because I got a note for that. And it was distributed in the United Kingdom through Metrodome Distribution. So I said it came out on the 26th in an expanded release. Let's go back to the 19th. We had a wide release of The Pledge, Chocolat, The Gift, and Snatch. I'm going to guess Butler has seen Snatch, and Butler has seen The Gift.
Which one is The Gift? Is that the one
with Katie Holmes? That's the one with the psychic.
Is there a box like it's a present that they keep trying to?
That is not that is called The Gift.
Okay.
That is the one that's done by Joel Edgerton, who I believe he's in it. I think he directed it too.
Yeah, that's the one I remember.
The Gift is with Cate Blanchett and Katie Holmes, I believe, and there's like someone's a psychic. It's like I want to say Sam Raimi is involved in that somehow, that movie.
I'm getting images in my head. I have to hold on.
I'll tell you right now. Yeah, I was right. So Cate Blanchett, Katie Holmes, Keanu Reeves, Hilary Swank. It's in a tiny town of Brixton, Georgia, where nothing is private. A woman with supernatural clairvoyance, a young, beautiful socialite who has mysteriously disappeared, and an assortment of colorful characters all collide. A haunting psychological thriller. The Gift is ultimately a profound celebration of the human spirit. Directed by Sam Raimi, written by Billy Bob Thornton and Tom Epperson. So
wow, Cate Blanchett, Katie Holmes, Keanu Reeves, Giovanni Ribisi, and Greg Kinnear.
You like Sam Raimi. I can't believe you've never seen this movie.
And I like that
whole
cast.
Put it on the list, Butler. Put it on the main list.
It's going. I have to make sure I specify 2000 because the other Gift is okay, but not.
I didn't see the other one.
Put on. You never saw the other one? It's not bad. It's not bad. It's definitely something more fun than what this one's.
Well, you put that on the list. I'll continue on with what came out on the 26th.
Well, I also saw Chocolat, and
did you really? And you saw The Pledge, the Sean Penn, Jack Nicholson directed film?
Yes, actually, I have seen The Pledge.
Wow, you saw all four of those. Look at you, good cinephile you are.
Just not The Gift.
The 26th, when this film was expanded, you had a wide release of The Wedding Planner and Sugar and Spice. And then the week after, the February 2nd, you had a wide release of Head Over Heels, Valentine, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, Left Behind the Movie, and limited release of The $1 Million Hotel and In the Mood for Love. In the Mood for Love is a foreign film, for those who don't.
I did not see as many of those.
I forgot to look up this guy's last name, so I apologize. New edits I see coming through Forgotten Cinema on my note app. Directed by Elias Mirhaj. I probably said that wrong. He's done Suspect Zero. That's about it. Written by Stephen Katz, who's done Wind Chill, the TV show The Nick, and TV show Manhunt. Cinematographer was Lou Bogue, who's basically, this is his only cinematographer. This guy's credits is, this is a cinematographer, the only one. Other than that, he's a gaffer. He's a gaffer on a bunch of other stuff. Bennett Like Beckham, A Room with a View. He's actually a gaffer on one of the other movies, not Suspect Zero, but another short or movie that Elias did, this director did. So he went from being a cinematographer in this film to just gaffing another film. Really odd, really weird, but whatever.
Maybe he really loves being a gaffer and he had a bad cinematography experience.
Knows his lane. Composer was Dan Jones, who's done Max, Lady Macbeth, and a TV show The Outlaws. Edited by Chris Wyatt, Dead Man Shoes, White Boy Rick, and Ammonite. And then, like I said, produced by Nicolas Cage and Jeff Levine. Cage has produced 1,000 Words and The Life of David Gale. I try to pick movies that he is not in. He's produced a lot of his later films now. And then Levine is a co-producer on Slither, 8mm, and Pitch Perfect. Not a big cast. John Malkovich as Frederick Wilhelm Murnau, or F.W. Murnau, nominated for 2 Oscars, Places in the Heart and In the Line of Fire. He's also obviously in Being John Malkovich. He's also in the movie We Did Butler, Burn After Reading.
Yes.
On season 2. Oof. Willem Dafoe as Max Schreck. He is nominated for 3 Oscars. He's nominated for 4. 1 for this film, Shadow of the Vampire. He's also nominated for Platoon, The Florida Project, and At Eternity's Gate. Carrie Elways as Fritz Arno Wagner, The Princess Bride, Saw, and the 2019 remake Black Christmas. Udo Kier as Albin Groh. He's the producer of this film. In the movie. He's in Blade, Johnny Mnemonic, and the TV show Hunters. He plays Adolf Hitler in the TV show Hunters 2nd season. Eddie Izzard, when he was Eddie Izzard back then, it's Gustav von Wagenheim of Ocean's 13, Mystery Men, and Super Ex-Girlfriend. Did you ever see Super Ex-Girlfriend?
Not the whole thing. Just I think I've seen parts, and I've seen the end because it was on before something on HBO one day.
It's not great, but it's not bad. It's a decent watch. It's got some funny moments. I think
Izzard's really good in Hannibal.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Catherine McCormick as Greta Schroeder, who's in Braveheart, Spy Game, and 28 Weeks Later. John Aidan Gillett as Henrik Galeen, who's the writer in the movie. He's from The Winslow Boy and The Foreigner. And then Ronan Vibert as Wolfgang Mueller, or Wolf Mueller, excuse me. He's from Saving Mr. Banks and The Snowman. He is the original cinematographer that Fritz replaces. Carrie Elways replaces character because Wolf dies or gets sick and they get rid of him and whatnot.
Goes crazy.
Right. So as I like to do, I said that Willem Dafoe was the best supporting actor for Shadow of the Vampire, but he did not win. Butler, let's see if you know who won that year. This is the 2001 Academy Awards for the movies that came out in 2000. And here are your nominees. Jeff Bridges from The Contender, Benicio del Toro from Traffic, Albert Finney from Aaron Brockovich, and Joaquin Phoenix from Gladiator. Who won the best supporting Oscar that year?
Benicio del Toro.
Correct for Traffic. Yes, good job. Way to go. Way to go. This film also has a Best Makeup Oscar nomination for this film. So makeup was recognized in this movie as well because it's very good. So, Mike, you had not seen this, right?
No, I always wanted to. I think I was too young to really watch it when it came out. I don't think my parents had any interest, but I remember the advertisements. That's why I'm so surprised it didn't have as big of a run as I thought, because I remember seeing the commercials all the time. And I thought that, obviously I've said on the podcast before, I think vampires are really cool. I'm really into vampire movies and stories. I think they're very interesting. You can do a lot with them. But just like the way Willem Dafoe played it, and it was close to Spider-Man.
Yep.
So he was obviously right after that, he got big as well. So I'd always wanted to see it. Never did. I knew he was nominated for the film. So it's something I've always wanted to see. And I had to study Nosferatu in college in the horror movie class I took in film school. So I never got to it, but I always was very interested. And I thought this was the perfect time to kind of take a look at it.
Okay. And what'd you think?
It's not as good as I was really hoping it would be. I think there are parts I really like. And I think that Willem Dafoe is as good as I was hoping he was going to be. He's fantastic in this role. Mm-hmm. I would have liked more of him. And I think there's some stuff from the notes I gathered that there's stuff on the cutting room floor that I think probably would have made me appreciate the film a little bit more. I think it's kind of a little unrealized. It goes places, but doesn't go far enough, doesn't explain things as well, but presents you with this, especially with Max Schreck, it presents you with this guy who's lived a life and has a history, but we don't really discuss it at all. And I get that there's the caveat of he doesn't really remember, but I really feel like you could go further in that, or go further with Malkovich's character, Murnau, F.W. Murnau, or explain what's going on with the cinematographer. We just don't go far enough in some places. And the movie's only an hour 45. I feel like just that extra 15 minutes added to it could have helped the film as a whole. But since it's almost like a feature to show here's Willem Dafoe as the Nosferatu, I think in that aspect, it does a very good job.
Okay. So you like the performance.
I like the performance. Malkovich is also really good. I just don't think story-wise it goes far enough, but it does a good job at showing us these two different but similar obsessive characters, which I think is what they're really going for anyway.
Yeah, the main plot thread is that Murnau has made a deal with Count Orlock that he'll make this movie, and then at the end of it, he can have Greta. That's the main deal, and it's not real. The Murnau is not a character in this film who is terribly remorseful about that decision. No, they kind of have it a little bit when he's drunk, or when he takes the laudanum. There's a couple scenes where they do that with the overdosing of drugs, where she takes the morphine and she's giggling, and he takes the laudanum and he's crazed, and then he admits what's going on. But he's not very remorseful. And obviously at the end of the film, when they attempt to turn the tables on Orlock and pull the lever so that the lead will come in and it'll kill him, and that doesn't happen. And the next thing you know, the producer goes after him, and then the cinematographer goes after him, and he kills him. But Murnau is still filming. He's still, and he, even to the point where he directs Orlock, get to your spot again. And because Murnau is clearly unhinged at this point, and that's what they're saying here. So it's very difficult to, very difficult to root for him a little bit to survive this. I mean, even none of the characters you don't get to know a lot of the supporting characters enough to, there's no real lead. There's no lead in this film. There's just Orlock, who's the main antagonist. And Murnau's not really the protag. He's really he's not a good protag. Maybe that's
he almost disappears for about 25 minutes of the movie too.
He does. He leaves because he has to go to the financiers. There's a little there's a little not shift, but confusion with the timeline, because it's like Murnau is off to, they have a little title card. Murnau is off to smooth the financiers and tell them everything's okay. And then the next scene he's there. Like the next scene he just shows up.
Yep.
So it's a little all over the place a little bit. And that kind of feels like an indie film to me. It feels like it's not it's the production, the movie itself feels like what I'm seeing on screen, which is a haphazard production. Does that make sense? Like it feels like it's
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
It feels like a much smaller movie than it probably is. Although it's not like it had a huge budget, but it does feel like a smaller movie.
And I'm okay with that. I like that. I like, run and gun kind of stuff. I like when people are just shooting it to tell a story and they're not focused on the big bombastic nature of it. It's not like Bram Stoker's Dracula. Like that needs to be that type of film.
Yeah.
That needs to be that. I don't think this does. It's 1920s. This is how filmmaking was back then. It's messy. It's a mess. It's auteurs everywhere talking about shadow and light and being snobby, obnoxious, and pompous. That's what it is. That's what it's all about. So I was okay with that. To the point where you were talking about before, I wanted to bring this note up. The film is shot. This movie is shot with Kodak Vision 800T film stock, which is a high-speed specialty stock, but it's purposely has very coarse grain. But they use this stock and they shot the movie in the Super 35 format. So when you cropped and enlarged it to anamorphic, it looks like old film. So this film was shot using silent film techniques. So I think that's what you're looking at. Whereas it feels like that. It feels like an older film, and that's probably worked against it. Which we can, if this was the main show, we'd be like, hey, why is it forgotten? That's probably what worked against it a little bit in terms of capturing a bigger audience. I
don't think the effect worked quite as well as they wanted it to, because it does just make it look like an old modern film. It doesn't really make it look like an old silent film. Although I will say the transitions from their recreations of the original film into bleeding into the real film, I thought those were really well done. I thought that was really good.
They do a good job when they're shooting and the iris in, and then it goes black and white. Yeah. And then you start seeing it does a really good job there. I think there was a lot of stuff like left on the table. Does that make sense? Like I kind of wanted more stuff. I wanted to know a little bit more. Like there's really they say, Shrek is so into his role that he becomes Orlock. Do not call him anything but Count Orlock.
Right.
But they don't besides the scene when he's sitting with them at the campfire, the director and the producer, and talking to them, there really isn't any other stuff with him outside of playing the parts. There's no conversation. He doesn't have a conversation with Francis unless they're at the table talking. And so I kind of wish there was a little bit more of that.
That would make it far more interesting, because you'd get to really know Orlock / Max Shrek a lot more, and you'd get to understand him. And I think in that one scene, you get a decent understanding of him, but I think you need more of that. And I think that the beginning sets you up for that as well, showing his past and the tablets and tableaus and stuff like that. And you don't really get any of that. But to your point, I didn't even realize I was watching it. They call him Orlock maybe once. After that, they just call him Max Shrek, and there's no repercussions. None, neither Murnau or Orlock
yell back and forth. Yeah. No, you're right. That scene by the campfire is probably the best, one of the better scenes in the film.
Yes.
Because you get to know a little bit more about Shrek and basically Orlock, and how he talks about how he watched Dracula. He read the book Dracula, and it's just so sad because Dracula doesn't have any. Orlock is talking about the fact that in the movie, in their world, in this world, that he has immortality, but he still gets old. You still age, but you live forever. And it's so sad and pathetic that Dracula has no friends and doesn't have any servants to, when he sets his table, it's so sad when he has to set his own table and that man sees it. Like that's what Orlock is talking about. And the writer and the producer that are listening to it completely are oblivious because they're drunk and they have no idea what's any. And then Orlock eats the bat, which is a great scene. He just starts eating the bats. But that's a great scene because you get to know about Orlock and you get to know a little bit more.
It's such an interesting thing to go in his head when he goes, because he doesn't have servants, and you think, oh, because he's a rich guy who doesn't have it. And it's like, no, he's lived for so long. He no longer remembers how to set a table. He no longer knows how it is to make food. He doesn't know how to dress. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah. I want more of that.
And then they cut the scenes. Then they cut right after that. They cut the scene where he kills the guy on the boat, which is a cool scene, but it's like so out of just there, like boom. It's just almost to have that moment there. And the stuff with Wolfgang when he first starts, I don't know if he's feeding on Wolfgang, if he's
like, they don't explain that well. I almost thought, but they don't really explain it, like that he was turning into like a Renfeld type character.
Maybe, yeah.
But to do that, he would have to be feeding on him or psychically communicating with him, and you don't really get any of that. But he starts feeling that way before they even start filming.
When they get there, and then they have a scene,
right?
When they get to when they get to the not the hotel, but the place to stay. Yeah. And they have that shot where it goes from one room to the other, but you see the shadow and the fingers coming across. Yeah. And then he goes into the room and Francis goes into the room, Eddie, Izzard's character, and sees Wolf and sees Wolf there. And he's like looking at the camera and he's like chill. He's freezing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, so what's happening? And we go away from it. And it's like, okay, we're not going to know. All right. That's fine. Right. That feels like a lost thread in the movie. It feels like they were just kind of referencing it, but they didn't want to go back, or they didn't go back. And it feels like we missed out on that.
Well, that's like when they showcase where does Murnau go? And we get that weird orgy cabaret party.
Oh, sex parties in the 1920s, baby.
Yeah. And he shoots up his laudanum, which, okay, we're establishing he does that. But at the same time, I don't know if I really needed that. Like, if you just showed him high on laudanum after his attack on Orlock, I would have believed it to begin with. And you see him kissing
party there. Yeah.
Yeah. He's kissing the ass of that lady before he clearly sleeps with her. And you find out that that's in the notes. That's the woman Shrek can't remember. That's the woman that turned him into Orlock. But if that's the case, why isn't she aging? Like, it just sets up so many questions.
So hold up. So the woman that Murnau is kissing is the woman that turned Orlock.
Supposedly, yeah. That's the whole thread. It's a whole deleted thread of the movie. Is that's actually the woman that turned him, and she's the one that told Murnau about Shrek to get him to like ask him if he wanted to film the movie. It's just like, that would have been super interesting, because we just get the fact that Shrek says, I don't remember. It was a woman. We made love. She changed me. I can't find her again. I had a picture. The picture became a memory. The memory has faded away over time. So I don't even remember if I saw her. If I saw her, I wouldn't know who she was. But then that woman doesn't age. So now I want to know why she doesn't age. And I want to know even when that movie, I wanted to know more about who turned Shrek. And is that why he's into Greta? Because we never really learn what makes him really like Greta. Did he see a movie she was in and now he really wants, to eat her and fondle her boob for, 25 minutes or whatever it was?
I like talk about now there's intimacy coordinators on set. So, but back then there wasn't. So can you imagine? I mean, Dafoe's a great guy. So can you imagine? He's like, listen, you mind if I do this? Or she or Catherine McCormick would have been like, yeah, go for it.
Right.
So, I mean, because she's when they go into her room, and she's giggling. She's like nude, and it's I'm like, okay, like, so maybe she's cool with that. So, all right, I was like, that's at random and out of nowhere.
Do it for Nicolas Cage.
Oh, please. He was going to play. Nicolas Cage produces because he was going to play Orlock. And then Dafoe. See, here's the thing with the notes again. Dafoe expressed interest. So Nick Cage said, no. Let's have Willem Dafoe do it. But then I have another note that says this part was specifically written for Willem Dafoe. So
yeah, that's what I had read.
What do you believe? Yeah, I know. It's almost like, let's go back and rewrite history, revisionist history. No, Nick Cage was going to do it. And he said, no. Stupid. There's two rumors. This movie is based on the fact that there was the legend that Shrek was a real vampire because that's how he played Orlock so real.
Right.
That's that he That was why. Obviously that's BS. There's also another rumor that Murnau was a vampire. Like that's why he did this film. I'm like, okay. Like, so again, BS. But that's interesting that we talk about that scene that Murnau goes to visit that woman, because I wonder if that's in there because of that other rumor as well, just to put it in there. And I'm a little bit disappointed because you're right. If you're going to show that scene, then you need to have more, because otherwise what's the point of the scene cannot be just the fact that he does laudanum. We don't need that, because it's believable that he would do it later on. I don't need that setup. I didn't need to see, you know what I mean? I didn't need to set up that Greta did morphine. So you don't need to give me the setup that he does that. So you're right. There's no reason for it.
Yeah, it just seemed like superfluous, or like they couldn't completely cut it because of we really like how the scene ends to ask, where does he go at night? But then you could just leave that up to imagination that he's going to visit Orlock or something. Like,
yeah, you never saw Babylon, right?
No.
Yeah, that's about like the sex parties and orgies. Not
right,
but that's a big part of it from the 20s in Hollywood. But listen, they're on back then. They're still going on now. Obviously, we know that. So
ain't no party like a Diddy party.
I don't know anything about that. You know about that probably, but I don't. Creeper. Let's see. We talked about characters and plot. Movie is remarkably. I think the movie when the movie starts, it's kind of a slow build. Hey, we're going to shoot a movie, and they kind of go through the motions. But then once you kind of figure out that he's there for Greta, the movie kind of kicks off into the end. I think that's a fair assessment of the script and from start to finish, the movie itself, like how, because I didn't feel like, I just felt like we were not meandering, but we were just plodding along. Okay, we're shooting a movie. Here's Orlock. This is going to end that. You know what I mean? Like normally you might have where Orlock is picking off the crew one by one until somebody figures out he's a real vampire, and then they stop him. But no, this is, it kind of is like, no, he is, but he's there for Greta. Boom, let's get to Greta. Let's get to that stuff. That's kind of how I feel this movie carries on. It's a short film. I know you said 45 minutes. I think it was an hour and a half. It's a relatively quick film.
Okay.
No, 92 minutes.
Okay.
It's a relatively quick film. So it's kind of difficult to... The stuff that we're talking about that we think is missing, I think would push it to 2 hours. And I don't know if I could last... I don't know if I can come away from this film feeling the way I do now if this movie is 120 minutes.
Well, I think when it adds stuff to it, though, I think that increases the enjoyment, that makes it maybe move even quicker. Like it does meander because I feel like it doesn't get to the point. And if the point is Greta, which we don't find out till probably over halfway, but there's no connection to Greta and Orlock that we know, no connection to Orlock's past, even though we've hinted at it. We're just kind of like, okay, well then let's get to this Greta stuff because that's apparently what we're here for. Like right now, I feel like the movie coasts on how good Willem Dafoe is as Shrek, and how crazy John Malkovich is as Murnau. But I feel like at the same time, Malkovich is just kind of being Malkovich.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
So
when he's yelling at him,
we're really there for Dafoe as the vampire.
I like when Dafoe does that thing with his fingernails the first time he does it. Yeah, I think that's good. He was probably doing that off set. He's like, I'm going to do this in the movie. Are there some lines in the film that jumped out at you that you enjoyed?
I liked obviously Murnau's line that he tells Shrek, if it's not in the frame, it didn't happen. I think that's a really good line.
That's a variation of a line he told Hitchcock when Hitchcock visited him in Berlin.
Right.
That's something he said to him. And I guess Hitchcock always remembered that. And if I don't think I've ever I don't even know if I've said this on our cast or any of the stuff that we've done, but Hitchcock is always like everything in frame needs to mean something. Stuff that whatever it's happened needs to have a meaning or have some kind of meaning. So that's probably from that as well. But go ahead, Mike. What else?
Obviously, like I said, or I think I said it on camera. The script girl, I'll eat her later. Like I think that's really good. Something about how everyone has demons. That's why they make art.
Oh, right.
You should know, which is another thing we don't get to because he heavily implies that the writer has his own demons that he's working through.
Right.
But we don't know what those are. Like, is it World War One, or that's what I assumed it was probably World War One.
If Murnau has devised this picture, I want to do a vampire film about this guy. Well, he wanted to do Dracula. That was the whole thing.
And he hired that guy.
Right. So they just changed everything. A couple of lines I remember where I like. There's the one that was in the trailer all the time when he goes, "This is hardly your picture any longer." That was in the trailer for the movie. I think I should have watched the trailer, but if you watch the trailer, it makes the film seem more horror actiony. It doesn't make it seem like a drama.
I actually watched the trailer right before because Elise was like, "What's Shadow of the Vampire?" So I played her the trailer. That's in there. It looks like the trailer makes it seem like he's taking control of the movie as well.
Yes,
it's not really. I want more close-ups. And he does say these lines in there, but it doesn't seem like when you watch him in the movie, it doesn't seem like he's in control.
Mm-hmm. Do you wish there was more? Because there's comedy in there. There's a little bit of humor in this. It's very dry, but this is mainly a drama horror. Do you want this to be a little bit more satirical, more comedy in there, more like kind of like funny moments?
I don't need it to be. The trailer certainly makes it seem like it might be. But if they're not going to go there, if it is going to be more serious the way it is, then I think that's why I need more of, the explanation of things, more of his backstory, make him more of a tragic figure than he is. Because like you said, it's tough to care about Murnau or really any of the characters because we don't get to know them. But at least I should try to care about the monster. That's always a good thing in like a classic monster movie. You care. Dracula is kind of a sad figure. Frankenstein is definitely a sad figure. The Wolfman is an unfortunate figure, those kind of things. And I think that we almost get that with Shrek with what he says about Dracula and his servants, but we don't go all the way. So I think you can either make him a funny bad guy or make him a tragic villain. And I don't think it goes far enough either way.
Gotcha. One other line before we move on that I really liked was from Greta, from Catherine McCormick, when Murnau's talking to her about, she's like, I don't want to go to Germany because the theater scene is starting, not Germany. She doesn't want to go to Czechoslovakia because the theater scene is starting up in Berlin. And she's like, the theatrical audience gives me life, and this thing, and she's talking about the camera, takes it from me, which I think is a really cool line.
That is a good line.
Really like symbolic of that shift from theater to cinema and films. Yeah.
But then Murnau's got that great monologue when they're on the train talking about how great film is and how it immortalizes things.
Back then, absolutely, because it creates worldwide celebrities, not just regional theatrical stars that, totally.
Your stories will be seen forever. Like, I can't remember the whole line, but basically it's like that film is, immortalized, and no longer are our stories stuck in the past. They'll be remembered forever.
And then if you flash forward to now, I think there is I don't think it's a major shift, but I think there's some shift to regional filmmaking in terms of authenticity and believability. I think just everything with what we've seen now on screen. Like, I watched Carry On, Mike, and Carry On's fine. But there are scenes in that movie that are straight CGI. Like, there's a scene where they're fighting inside this car and it's the entire car is CGI. And I'm like, yeah, this is a cool scene and maybe this is the future of filmmaking, but it's not real. And I don't you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't feel real. It feels super realistic and movie and video game-ish. And if that's where we're going, that's great. But I don't know if I'm going to seek that out often on the big screen. I'd rather have stuff that's done by, that's done on set, on location with real people and real, you know what I mean? Like, it's not, I don't know.
You want to go out and find your own real vampire if you're going to make a vampire movie. I get it.
Honestly, yeah, maybe we're back at that. Maybe we need to find more stuff, find that real stuff. Well, let me get into some reviews and see what you think of these. They both loved it. Ebert said that the director and writer did two things at the same time. They made a vampire movie of their own, and they told which they tell a backstory about the measures that a director will take to realize his vision, and that Dafoe, quote, embodies the Shrek of Nosferatu so uncannily that when real scenes from the silent classic are slipped into the frame, we don't notice a difference. Did you notice a difference?
Not really. Yeah. I thought they recreated the frames and then faded it. I didn't realize they actually used the old frames.
They do use some, not all, but some.
I agree with that.
And then A.O. Scott for the New York Times said, you can find diversion in an improbable blend of behind-the-scenes satire and art house fright fest anchored by Willem Dafoe's creepy, comical, and oddly moving performance as the blood-sucking Shrek. I'm going to say this. If it's not Dafoe and if it's not the performance we get out of Dafoe, if it's somebody else that plays Shrek, I don't think we're talking about this movie now. I think this movie it doesn't have this long legs. No, I agree.
It 100% rests completely on his performance.
Even if Malkovich is in it, and even if Malkovich is doing a great job, the same job he did, I think if you have somebody in the lead role not performing as well as Dafoe is, it's just not the same. I don't think it's going to be the same at all, like Mike said.
100%. He makes this film. Maybe if you went deeper with Shrek's character, so that the story helped support him. But right now, the whole movie is supported on the back of Dafoe. That whole character of Max Shrek is supported on the back of that performance.
Right. So we watched this film because we're going to watch Nosferatu. Why do you think that was a good idea? Like, does this film help us with this movie coming up or no?
I think it's fun to see the backstory of how the film was made. It gives you a little bit more history than watching just an old black and white film and be like, all right, that was the old one, time to go. I think it helps establish its legacy to be like, this film is such a big deal that there was an Oscar nominated film that came out in the early 2000s about its importance basically and about how it was made. And so I think that helps it. I think it solidifies it in the zeitgeist of cinema history and how important this film is and how, don't screw it up. I guess.
So as you know, Mike and I will be seeing Nosferatu for our Forgotten Cinema Now showing episode. If you have not seen Shadow of the Empire, we're sorry that we spoiled it, but you really should see it. But yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see what we're gonna do, what this movie we're gonna see. I mean, it's weird because this movie is a remake of a film from like 100 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So it's like it's not really a remake of something that came out 20 years ago. So it's something that's a fresh new take. Is anything they do is a fresh new take, and I'm surprised it took this long for them to redo this.
There have been other Nosferatus like in the 30s and stuff, but yeah, they haven't done a Nosferatu in a long time.
Probably because a show. Wasn't there a show on FX or something or AMC with the guy who played Spock in the new Star Treks?
Oh, Zachary Quinto, yeah.
Wasn't there a show with because I remember the license plate. It said Nosferatu on it.
It's Nosferatu, but he wasn't really the Nosferatu vampire. He was I don't know.
I never saw it.
But yeah, there have been other like hints at the Nosferatu type vampire, but not much. And I know the Vampire the Masquerade kind of RPG game and novels and comics and all that world treats Nosferatu as a certain type of vampire that get disfigured when they turn into them. But I think most people just do regular vampires because it's cheaper. Just fake teeth instead of full effects.
I'm curious though, because Nosferatu is basically the original is Dracula. They couldn't do Dracula.
Very similar, yeah.
Now, Eggers is doing Nosferatu here. I'm wondering if it's going to be more compared to Bram Stoker's Dracula than anything else. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm wondering.
It will be.
Yeah.
I mean, they're even introducing what's his name? They're introducing basically a Van Helsing type character and all that. So
I wonder if this is just Eggers' way of doing a Dracula film without having to do, because you really don't. I don't know if you need another Dracula. Yeah, Bram Stoker's Dracula is pretty good.
Not for a while anyway, at least.
I mean, and obviously the Dracula Untold, where it's action.
Dracula 2000.
So I'm wondering if this is just his way of doing a Dracula film, but it's not really saddled with the Dracula. But which is fine, which is cool. I'm interested to see it. So yeah, cool. All right. Where can they? No, this is for our Patreon. So I was going to say, where can they find us? So no.
Well, it comes out afterward toward the release of the movie on home video.
Right, well, so then why don't you thank everybody, and then we could tell everyone where we found us.
Patrons, thank you for your continued support of our show. We can't do it without you. You are the wind beneath our wings. Thank you, seriously, for your continued support of the show. We have a bunch of stuff. We actually just the other day started coming up with new stuff to put on the Patreon for 2025. So Get ready for all that goodness. And for everyone else, you can find us at ForgottenCinemaPodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts. If you're listening to us, watching us, wherever you're doing, please like, rate, subscribe, comment. All that stuff helps. What's your favorite vampire film? What's your favorite Nosferatu film or take on a Nosferatu? Like Field mentioned Nosferatu. I mentioned Vampire the Masquerade. There's apparently 3 or 4 versions of Nosferatu going up to like the 50s or 60s, I think. So what's your favorite? And who is your favorite on-screen vampire? That's what I got.
Who's your favorite on-screen vampire?
Ooh, on-screen vampire? I mean, I always liked Angel growing up. I always liked that show. I like that he's filtered, but Spike's always fun. Movie-wise, obviously it's got to be Dracula from Blade 3, right?
Oh, man.
I'm just kidding. Movie-wise, it's probably Gary Oldman from Bram Stoker.
From Dracula.
Yeah. But I will say, if you haven't seen the BBC Dracula miniseries, that guy who, unfortunately, I can't remember who it was off the top. He did a very good job.
Yeah, but I didn't like I wasn't a big
The final
fan of
episode is kind of a letdown.
Yeah.
The first two are really good.
He is the antagonist in that Bad Sisters season 1 show on Apple, which I watched. He's pretty good. But yeah, he's a real jerk in that. And he's in something else where he was like a nice guy, and I was like, I can't get over the fact that he was such a bad guy. All right, anyways, yeah, thanks for listening, guys. We will till our next lead up, till our next now showing, till our next episode, main show episode, we'll be there. So I'm Mike Field.
I'm Mike Butler.
And this has been Forgotten Cinema Lead Up. Take care, everyone.